If you guys haven't, if you haven't done so already, make sure to do the attendance. Get started. So today's is about Proxmox. So we're going to talk about that. So, but before we talk about Proxmox, we need to cover like virtualization and stuff like that. So virtualization is basically just technology that allows you to create independent and like isolated virtual machines. So if you're in the ethical hacking club and stuff like that, you've used virtualization for your like your Kali boxes and stuff like that. And then a hypervisor is a specific piece of software that manages the execution of virtual machines. It keeps it kind of like isolated and handles like how resource allocation and stuff like that works. And there's two primary types of hypervisors. So the first one is type 1, which is bare metal. Basically, a type 1 hypervisor is just the operating system that you put on that hardware. And there's a bunch of them. Like they have a bunch of really good features, but really the most like notable ones are Proxmox, ESXi, and XCP-ng. And then type 2 is a hosted hypervisor, so that's just a dedicated piece of software that runs like on Windows or whatever. So VirtualBox, VMware Workstation, those are hosted hypervisors or type 2 hypervisors. And they're a little bit more like limited feature-wise because the hosted hypervisor has to talk to the operating system to then get access to the hardware. So you're a lot more limited like with what you can actually do with them, but they are still really good for certain use cases. This diagram here is kind of like an idea of what it looks like. So the type 1 is just it has direct access to the hardware, and then type 2 has to communicate through the operating system that's actually installed before it can have access to the hardware. So that's the slight difference. Another one, so this is not virtualization, it's called containerization. But basically this allows you to create isolated software instances, which are called containers. So compared to virtualization, every virtual machine will have its own independent and completely isolated like kernel, file system, memory space. It'll have its own hardware and all of that stuff. Containers basically share resources with the host. But they still have their own isolated memory space and file system, but they do share the kernel with the host. So they're a lot more efficient. They require a lot less resources to actually run, and they're super lightweight. They could be configured to access the host file system, so that is another nice feature that's pretty convenient with it. And then really like a really popular containerization platform is called Docker. Proxmox also supports containerization, which is why we brought this one up here. But yeah, this is.
Yeah, so Proxmox specifically is a Linux-based bare metal hypervisor. Essentially, it's like VMware's ESXi or vCloud, and whichever one is the bare metal hypervisor in VMware stuff. I have no idea. But it's bare metal hypervisor. The interesting thing, though, is it's based on the Linux kernel. So normally you'd think Linux, oh, Linux is an operating system, so this is going to be one of those like the bad hypervisors that run like on the OS. The interesting thing about the Linux kernel is it actually has built-in features to be a bare metal hypervisor, colloquially known as KVM or kernel mode virtual machines, and containerization, such as LXC using things like C groups and isolated file systems. In addition to the standard Debian-based Linux distribution, it also comes with several useful hypervisor features. So Proxmox, the distribution of Linux, is based on Debian, so it's got like apt and all that stuff, along with all the special Proxmox tools. Plus a bunch of useful features specifically for being a hypervisor, such as a web GUI, easy VM management, so you can just spin up VMs and destroy them with like a right click and a left click. Ability to directly download ISOs instead of just uploading them. So normally if you have like a VirtualBox, you got to download the ISO and then put it on there. If you're running ESXi, you got to download the ISO to your box, to your computer, and then upload it back again to ESXi. Proxmox has a little thing where you just put in the URL and it'll just, Proxmox itself will go out and download the ISO. So it can be a bit faster under the right conditions. It allows you to firewall off VMs themselves and containers. So you can actually have host-based firewalls, but not actually in the host. They're in the hypervisor. And it also allows for easy backups as well. It's super easy to just make a new backup job and just have it back things up every night or whatever. A little bit of terminology. Virtual machines are like a fully virtualized computer. So like things like the hard drive and CPUs and RAM and all that stuff is like completely virtual. A container is partially virtualized, so it's just a process that's running kind of pretty much just like a normal process would on the computer, except it's been isolated using things like C groups. Uh, there's a tool called LXC, which is what Proxmox uses under the hood. Then that's what it uses to do its containers. A node would be one Proxmox server in a cluster, and a cluster would be several nodes working together. High availability is the ability for several nodes in a cluster to provide the same service to ensure it has maximum uptime. The minimum for Proxmox, the minimum required for it to be considered high availability is 3. So then one goes down, there's still 2 available. Use cases for Proxmox and really a lot of other hypervisors are hosting several VMs and containers on a single server. So if you have a whole bunch of services and you don't want to have one computer for every single one, you can put them all in one, put them all in a hypervisor and run them all on one server. There's a bunch of different self-hosted services you can have. Media servers are super common. So is DNS ad blocking. If you've ever heard of a Pi-hole or AdGuard, that's what that is. Password managers, Bitwarden actually can be self-hosted along with quite a few other ones. And then a NAS or a file server, so you can kind of have your own local cloud. VMs for classes. I'm sure everyone in here has taken some cyber classes at some point. And those require a lot of those require you to have like a Kali VM. You can put your VMs instead of having them on your computer with the 256 gigabyte SSD that you get with it. You could put them on a server somewhere that probably has more than 256 gigs of storage. And then one really interesting one is GPU pass through. So you can actually, if you have a VM, you don't always have to have all the hardware be virtual. Sometimes you can take a physical bit of hardware like a GPU and pass it through to the VM so the VM can access it directly. So if you have like a 4090 or something in your server, you could pass that through to like a Windows VM. And then if you open the like a console for the or screen ticket for the VM, you could play games through it because now you have a 4090 in it.
So DSU, I'm sure you've heard of the PCL, the pickle, whatever, and IALab. And so what are those? You open VMs, you do things with them for classes. But the pickle, it runs off Proxmox. IALab, it runs off VMware ESXi. It's not as good. It costs more money. We don't like it. But there's also some other stuff in the background, like custom scripts. There's a different GUI. You'll see when we log on to the practice thing we'll have you work on. It's not the same as what you see in the pickle. It's different. So it's a custom made front end like menu for the pickle. And there's some other added elements which it usually works, but it doesn't. I'm sure you guys saw that towards the beginning of the semester. And speaking of that, there's an ILab server tour in like 2 weeks. It'll be over in the Science Center. There'll be more announcements about it, but you guys should attend that because it's really cool. And so my Proxmox use case, my Proxmox server is somewhere underneath the hamper of clothes and things. But yeah, so what do I use it for? I learned a lot about hardware from it. I learned about RAID controllers, different storage pools, how to manage servers from it. Because you have to manage the resources. I mean, your server might have a lot more cores than a laptop or more storage, but you still have to manage it between VMs and things like that. So it's a really good way to learn how to manage hardware and software. For VPN access, I use zero tier. I don't quite know how it works. It's very complex. It's a lot. It's similar to Tailscroll if you've heard about that, but you don't need port forwarding for this VPN. It's like I don't know. Do you know how it works?
It connects out to their server and then uses that to like NAT punch, I think. I'm not 100% sure. It probably relays through their server if they can't NAT punch.
Right. You should look it up online. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
But what do I do with it? I use it as a playground. I run Kali workstations. Like if I'm doing CTF competitions and I need Kali, I don't want to run it on my laptop. I just set up a Kali VM on my Proxmox. It has a lot more resources on there than it would have on my laptop. I use it for Windows script testing for CCDC or other DefSec competitions. That's really nice. Game of Active Directory, that's a lot. It's like a pen testing setup for different Windows domain vulnerabilities. Tornet exit node, not really. Don't do that on DSU's campus. Minecraft server, I like to play around with that, and then Pi-hole, which Ethan mentioned for ad blocking, DNS, things like that, and then ISO file hoarding. So I put a lot of different ISOs for different operating systems on there, and I mess around with them.
Yeah, so my server at home that I run all my stuff on also runs Proxmox. You can see it at the very bottom of that horrendous stack there, right under the router and the UPS. But I self-host a lot of stuff. Most of the online services I use are self-hosted now. I switched away from a lot of stuff like Google Drive or Google Docs, and mostly use self-hosted and open source stuff. The biggest ones are Password Manager. I self-host not Bitwarden, but a different open source project that emulates Bitwarden. That's a little bit lighter weight, so it runs on my more worse hardware. The server there is a Supermicro from 2013, so it's a little on the underpowered side. RSS feeds. You can see a few of the RSS related stuff in the Proxmox thing, and then my screenshot of my bookmarks folder for all my self-hosted stuff. So I have a thing that aggregates RSS feeds for like news and things on the internet that I can go and look at, and that's all self-hosted. I also self-host a GitLab instance, so I can have a bunch of projects up there, and it's like my own kind of private GitHub. What else is there? Overleaf is another big one. Overleaf is an online latex editor. So rather than using their like online public instance, I have my own private instance. Because I do most of my assignments in latex instead of Word now. Oh yeah, speed test. That's actually the really nice one that I haven't seen a whole lot of people mention, is you can self-host your own speed testing software and do network diagnostics for like over your own VPN back to your home network, which is pretty handy. I put Password Manager twice for some reason. Calendar contacts and to-do lists. So if you've ever heard of CalDAV, I self-host a CalDAV server. So rather than syncing all my contacts and calendar stuff through like Google or Outlook, I can have it all local, and then I just point my devices at my CalDAV server and they just pick it up. So it all syncs locally, which is pretty cool. Homepage, which is a really configurable sort of like start page. If you remember, they're not as common anymore, but way back in the day, it used to be a big thing to like set your new tab page or your home page for your browser to like some website that had like news feeds or a search bar. Homepage is a self-hosted version of that, but you can configure basically everything about it with like YAML files. So I have links and uptime monitors for like all of my own services, stuff like that. LLMs are another cool one. You can self-host things that are like ChatGPT or GPT-4 using Olama and associated like web UI projects with it as well. I think I have Stable Diffusion in there too, but that doesn't get run very often since I have to manually spin it up. And then DNS-based ad blocking, like Malachi. I don't run Pi-hole, I run a thing called AdGuard, which is more or less the same thing, just made by different people. Yeah, I back up all my stuff to OneDrive, because DSU gives us a terabyte of OneDrive, and you know what? I'm gonna use it. So thanks for the free backup space, DSU. And then yeah, I access my stuff over WireGuard primarily. WireGuard is a VPN protocol, runs over UDP. I believe it's what Tailscale and ZeroTier are actually based off of. They took the WireGuard protocol, then added some stuff onto it to make it easier to use without port forwarding. By default, like just base WireGuard requires you to port forward a UDP port. Tailscale and ZeroTier will actually do that for you and relay their stuff through your stuff through their servers if required. And they have SSH for backup because nothing ever seems to go right. But yeah, you can see that's my the one on the far left there is a screenshot of like my bookmarks folder for all my self-hosted stuff. And then this is a picture of my Proxmox, every container I'm running, and some of the VMs at the bottom there. And then the server, other server, and router, and power backup battery that is sitting in my parents' basement. Lovely fiberglass insulation and exposed wiring in the background. But yeah.
So this is my server. This is not actually in the bathroom. The story behind this is when we were moving, moving dorms over, and I just moved it in there because I thought it was hilarious. But yeah, I also run like kind of like Ethan said, like almost every service that I used to use online is completely offline now, with the exception of like YouTube and email. But so specifically for like the server, so the black one here, that's my Proxmox server. So that's the one that I'm going to talk about mostly. But I have a NAS on there, so what's kind of cool about this case is you can't really see it, but there's two 5 1/4 inch bays. So you can, it's mostly meant for like DVD drives, but you can put like, there was a like a backplane for 6 SSDs, and I ended up just getting 2 of them. So I have 12 front mounted SSDs on my Proxmox server, and I have 6 of them attached to what's called an LSI HBA, which is just like a storage controller. And I think again, like what Ethan mentioned, you can do like hardware pass through into a virtual machine. So my TrueNAS scale virtual machine has the HBA passed into it, and then it can immediately see all 6 of those drives because it has direct access to the hardware. My other one, so the second one down, is my Docker instance. So I have a Ubuntu server virtual machine that I use for all of my containers. So that's where all of my like Plex stuff, my front end for my LLM things, like my alternative for Google Docs and stuff like that. I don't remember what all is running on there. It's been a while since I've looked at it, but there's a bunch of stuff running on it. Um, and also, again, like I have a Pop! OS virtual machine, so that's that A2 one. It's the third one down. There's 2 of them. One of them is running Windows, but that's because I was migrating stuff over. But the first one is running Pop! OS, and I have an RTX A2000 passed into it, so I use that for all of my like large language model stuff, and then I can do some cloud gaming through it as well. And then just pretty much the rest of them are all like security experimental things, because that's mostly what I use my server for. So I have like Game of Active Directory, kind of like how Malachi has. So that's like an Active Directory environment where you can do a whole bunch of pen testing and stuff. I have some web exploitation stuff, so I don't even remember the name of them, but there's a couple like vulnerable websites that you can practice various attacks on. I do malware analysis in my Proxmox thing, and I do malware development in it as well. Those, in kind of like how Ethan mentioned, you can do like the certain networking with the hypervisor to prevent things from going out. So you can you can isolate some networks fairly easily. I probably wouldn't recommend running it on the same stuff. I'd like to get a dedicated machine for it. Oops. But that's what I do right now. So yeah, the for remote access stuff, I don't do it on my Proxmox server. You can't even really see it, but there's a little think center kind of below that sticker bombed panel, like on the top. You can just barely see the red line. But that's my PF sensor router, and that's how I do remote access. I do everything with Tailscale. But yeah, that's how I use my Proxmox instance specifically. I don't think I missed anything. I don't know. Yeah, I play with various operating systems on there. So there's like a NixOS box on there. It's pretty cool. I like it a lot actually, but I haven't used it in a while.
Yeah. So, all right, when you get to a Proxmox machine, you install it on a server, but when you get to that server, you're just going to be greeted with a command line. There's no web GUI, there's nothing. It's just a command line. So how we get to Proxmox is you have to go into a different machine and go to the IP at the certain port 8006. I don't know why they picked that port. It's kind of a weird port. But so that's how we get to the web GUI, and that's how we create VMs. So then we'll actually do a practice where you have to set up a VM. I just deployed a VM it's in the Linux channel of ESU Computer Club. You just have to click on it and it should work. If it doesn't work, let me know. If you want to pull it up on your, because you're running a meeting there.
Yeah, I can see. You want me to just make a re-app for myself?
Yeah. Since your computer's hooked up to it.
Yeah. This interaction's failed.
Yeah. Galen made it. You have the rules.
Probably not.
Yeah, you probably have to go up to channels.
If you don't see the Linux channel, let me know. I can show you how to.
Even if you sometimes it doesn't. Even though the channels Let's see. Once I get the V app up here, I can kind of show you guys what we're doing.
Yeah, it takes a second to provision it, and then plus like 12 people just clicked on it, so it's gonna take a second.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It gives you a link and sends you to the ILO.
I sure would love if I could get a V app. Oh, there it goes.
Maybe you can screen share it.
Yeah, I'll put it. Let me get logged in.
Yeah.
Let's see. Here we go. Yeah, so if we go over here and then zoom in so it's a little easier to read, we can go to start to start it up. Give it a sec here. Yeah. Yeah, so Proxmox, like, it just shows up like a Linux TTY. So you could log in and do stuff with the command line on the Proxmox box, but you'll need you can also use a web browser to access the web GUI at the URL. What?
Did you turn fencing on? Because like a dozen of them just failed.
Fancy.
Great job, Malachi. I'm sorry, I love it.
What? Forgot to turn fancy.
Because when you clone the VApp template, it like clones MAC addresses and IPs, which means it just ceases working if you start them all at once.
I don't know. Just thought I would randomize it every time.
It's kind of goofy.
It's exciting.
Let's see.
Somebody did not put ring fence, so the MAC addresses are all clonked to be identical.
Yeah, dude.
I've touched IA Labs like 4 times, and each time I've not liked it. Oh wait, one time it worked.
Well,
Proxmox itself was started. Oh wait, no, that was for 2 other people. That's minorly annoying. Perfect. Failed again.
That's
When
one.
you get it started, okay. Yeah, it might just not work. Go show off like one stuff to the Proxmox instance. Sure. Yeah. Okay, so since the VApp stuff is kind of broken right now,
reset the max.
Well, you can.
oh, can you? Where do you do that?
Uh, open the VM. Yeah, go to Nick and then reset.
Okay. Edit, I assume.
Yeah.
Yeah, front scene isn't supported on this apparently. For whatever
Unless we have
reason.
an updater VM.
I am editing this on the like OBS stream window right now, so I it's really hard to see.
You can look.
OBS is not responding.
You got the biggest screen in the building.
Yeah, 4 feet away from my eyes. I can't see that close. Most people can't see a 10-foot screen 3 feet away from their eyes. That's a pretty common ailment. Yeah, I hate to break it to you, but every single person in here has visual impairment.
Is anyone still broken? I can come and fix.
Yeah, if you I suppose you guys can see what I'm doing. If you go into the V app, open the VM, look at the little Nix bit here, and then change Mac to reset. Save. I'll have to do it one more time here in case you didn't catch it, but give this a sec to change.
For VF sense, you'll have to do it.
Oh, all the interfaces, yeah. Yeah, so if I go over to the VM here, Nix, edit, you can see pfSense has like 4, the other 2 only had 1. But if I scroll over to Mac, go reset.
You only have to do it on the PS system.
Oh, do you?
Yeah.
Oh well, that's okay.
And only 2.
Oh well.
That's okay. I did the same thing. I did all of some faces.
I mean, it takes like 4 microseconds to regenerate 4 random numbers, so I don't think we're wasting a whole lot of compute.
Is anyone still broken? Coming home.
Where's my mouse? There it is.
I think you reset the news. Oh, you can make it talk to that.
You guys got it?
We should.
Happy is password one day. Like the capital P password.
Oh, it is on.
One. What?
Okay, so now we've got our web console here once these start up.
For the Ubuntu or what?
I have to start the other 2.
Could be password one day.
Yeah. For the Ubuntu one, you might have to make sure you're logging into the DSU user instead of root.
Password one exclamation.
Exclamation
Yeah.
point, not bang. Bang is like text.
Hmm?
It's like hashtag versus count.
Actually, it's an octothorpe. The ASCII character is different from a hashtag or a pound symbol. You're welcome. Okay, well, if we open up our virtual console here, we can see we've got a bit open. We log in. I can't really zoom in a whole lot from here. So. This is already going to be absolutely massive once we get into it. Oh, that's Amazon.
You could just type it in.
Or I could just click the button.
So it's going to be at https://192.168.1.2.
And then, yeah, :8006 there. It should be, if you open Firefox, it should be in the little like previously gone to tabs thing, because it pulled the browser history in from when we templated it. Yeah, we had our beautiful flash of not having a valid subscription, except this is all open source, and not having a valid subscription doesn't mean anything. The only actual difference not having a subscription makes is the repositories aren't as thoroughly tested, which is really funny, which means you're gonna, by subscribing and using the subscription only repos, you're getting more out of date software, which is kind of funny, but it's mostly just because it's stable, really. But I don't think this one has any VMs on it right now. But I did add an ISO to it. So if you want to throw together a VM here, we can go up, hit create VM. We can name it something like my test. Oh, I don't think I can put spaces in there. So I guess it's not my test, it's all of our test. Do that. ISO image, I'll select the one I downloaded ahead of time, just like any good cooking show. That one should be downloaded for all of you guys as well. It's ISO of Alpine Linux because it's smaller. A lot of the stuff can just stay as the default. Disk size, number of CPU, memory. We're not doing anything too heavy with this, so give it more RAM than the host has. That sounds like a good thing. Yeah. So if we give this a second here, we'll see we now have a VM of ID 100 and test. I can use the Wii remote here. It's not gonna let me go in. Oh well. But if we go console, start now. Yeah. So if we start our VM up here and give it a sec. Uh-oh. $5 says this is because IA Labs doesn't like her. Yeah. Likes that. Yeah, KVM enabled, but not. Yeah, either disable VM config. So yeah, we can just go over here. KVM hardware virtualization, we'll go in and check that off. That's going to degrade our performance a little bit, but let's be honest, we weren't getting good performance out of this anyways. It's in.
Oh, it is.
Yep, if you go to, if you didn't catch it, it's in options over here on the left, and then the KVM hardware virtualization, just change that to no. But if we wait for this to connect, and then put this back over, we can see a little login bit there. If we log in as root, oh, that says boot. Uh-oh, boot failed, not a bootable disk. Oh, that's funky. Oh, and
just download one off the internet.
oh wait, no, that worked though. That worked. Apparently, typing root just worked.
The boot order is out.
Ah, that makes sense. I don't know why it's taking so long to boot though.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I think it's because it pulled up the boot, like the ISO Linux boot command line, and then typing it, and then root is like the name of the disk or whatever. Even though, so I was trying to log into root, but I typed root and hit enter, which it treated as a command to boot from root, which was what we wanted anyway. So we take it. We take it.
I typed boot.
Boot. Oh, maybe you can just type anything. Maybe all you have to do. Maybe all you have to do is hit enter. It's been a minute since I've used ISO Linux. And by a minute, I mean like 3 years. Yeah. Last time I used SysLinux was when I installed Gen 2. Oh, we got a screen reconfigure. It's like, what is it, KMS is figuring itself out, probably. Let's see, does this have commands to zoom in? I can make it full screen. That works, we'll take that. I can't see that. Okay, so yeah, now we can go in and we can see we're on Alpine Linux now. Everybody has their very own box, if you're following along. And if I could type, look at that, Alpine Linux. What are the odds? 1 because I put it there. So now we can do whatever we want. If we want, we could install a web server. If I do APK update, I can't read that error. I'm really sorry. Oh yeah, we have to install it. That's right. So if we set up Alpine here, Alpine is one of those fun Linux distributions you have to like sort of manually install. Keyboard layout can be ENUS, IVUS keyboard. Oh wait, I have to do EN and then US because it's one of those funny ones. There we go. Select variant US. System host name Alpine. Let's see what we got. Let's see, we'll just let this thing configure it with DHCP. Root password. We gotta go with the classic. Password one bang. What time zone are we in? We're in America/Chicago. We don't have a proxy. Whichever one it wants is fine. I don't think the internet works in here though, unfortunately. Let's see, should we find the fastest mirror? I don't think IA Labs has an Alpine mirror, unfortunately. So I think if we just use a random mirror, we'll be as good as anything.
You're creating a VM in a VM,
Yep.
which always goes great.
Oh, of course. I mean, my setup with Proxmox at home, I have Proxmox as the hypervisor. I have LXC containers running in Proxmox, and then every LXC container, I have an instance of Docker for the services. So I have a container and a container and a hypervisor.
I was gonna say my GoAd instance is Ubuntu desktop running VirtualBox with 5 virtual machines inside of VirtualBox on Proxmox. It's so bad. It's actually almost unbeatable, but it works. Huh?
Just push other.
No, because that defeats the point of virtualization.
If you don't go at least 3 layers deep in virtualization, you're not virtualizing properly.
I mean, Wayne has the rules other out of bands. For the remote network, he just has that and ESXi and ESXi. So you're paying double the license fees.
That's fun. Yeah, I mean, the fun part about virtualization is that as long as you have nested virtualization enabled and everything, you can just keep going as deep as you want. And have like 0 performance hit if you do it right.
Just pick up an entire course name.
Creating 24 million VMs. I remember talking to a guy once who installed Proxmox on a flash drive. Like, not like booted it from a live instance, like installed Proxmox on the flash drive and then booted it live and started VM from that. I think he had like 100 Alpine VMs or something.
It's great.
Did you get yours ready going? Ah, I see.
We're good.
You cyber people, all you ever do is cat Etsy pass.
Hey, that's a show.
You prove my point. Set up a web server, then we'll talk. Say count, why do you keep monkey's paw? No, I want a fully configured Apache 2 service with 2 separate web apps. One with vhosts, Import Python 3, import HTTP dot server. Subprocess dot run PHP. There, web server. There we go. We can reboot now.
What did you?
I installed it.
Oh. I didn't do any of that.
Yeah, so you run setup Alpine, and then that'll install it, and then you have to reboot after you install
Oh yeah, I just internal.
because it doesn't have a GUI. You have
I
to.
mean, did you just like did it let you do anything after you installed?
Yeah, it's a live. It's a live direct like distro.
Let me reboot.
Let's see. What do we got here? Black screen. Let's go.
Fine.
Single blinking cursor, my beloved.
Where is my one?
Where is my Linux? Boy, I sure do love my Linux. Where is my Linux?
Yeah.
Where is my Linux? Let's see. Let's do a hard reset and see if we see anything there. What?
It started extra slow. That's just slow.
Yeah.
So the output I see is
Yeah, I think it's just slow. Perks of running a VM and a VM and a VM without proper nested virtualization. Reminds me of that guy who got a he got Linux running on an old like a 4-bit mainframe from like the 60s by writing a MIPS emulator to run on the mainframe, which he then booted Linux on. It took 3 days to get to like a command prompt. Yeah, that's the performance we're looking at. Funnily enough, I think that guy was the same one who did the firmware for the DEF CON badges last year. Or this year. Which is pretty interesting. Get my queue. It's mine. None of the rest of you can have it. Actually, that just says MQ, never mind. For use then, I guess. Should we install a desktop environment on here? How far do you think we can get? I could probably get a desktop environment running. Just install Proxmox or something.
Still good.
No, that's
At least we're intensive.
42 dates out of date. We're on GNOME 48 now.
Are we?
47.
Oh,
I don't know. I'm on 47.
This is
Out of the loop, SMH my head.
sorry.
Everyone left the Mac user. APK add, Fluxbox, Xterm. That's good enough. That'll get us where we want to go. Let's go. APK update. I said APK update. That's not how you spell APK update. That is. APK add Fluxbox and I genuinely can't read what's happening there. Fluxbox, no such package. Okay, well, what if we just go with XFCE4? I didn't know the file was. Okay, now I know you're lying. Yeah. Because it has like a virtual package representing the state of the system, which has dependencies added to it. Alpine. I might just have to add a repo to it, to be honest. Alpine Fluxbox. The Alpine Linux Wiki. I need to add the community repository. That's what it is. That's the wrong thing. That's the right thing. Etsy APK repositories. Oh boy, that's a fun one. That's handy. They put it in there for us. That's nice. Man, you hit escape one time. This is why we can't have anything nice. You know that? There we go. APK update. There we go. APK install Fluxbox Xterm, and then apparently it also wants a font terminus, according to the wiki.
That is what's happening. The rips aren't supposed to be. No, I think
Oh, whoops. APK add. I did in fact just do APK, yes. This is why I'm not allowed in a VFL. Yes, it's installing. Watch me bootstrap a graphical Linux system live on camera. You won't believe what happens next. I'll give you a hint. I run the Linux system. Set up. I'm not seeing. Set up Xorg base. What is this going to do? I haven't used this script before. Oh, it's installing stuff.
I don't know.
Okay. We got Xorg. Where's my mouse? Mouse. Yeah, I'm not typing that, and I'm lazy. Okay, it's ready. That's ready to hit insert. Look at that. IALab copy paste script goes crazy. Now we start X, and nothing goes wrong at all.
I'm so sorry.
Come on.
I spent way too much time on shit.
Oh, there we go. We got a graphical user interface here. Look at that. We are 2 layers deep. Okay, now APK add virtual box. I don't think virtual box is in the alpha. It is not. Unfortunate. APK add Docker. We gotta go deeper. We gotta go deeper. If we can still type a letter and it appears on screen in under an hour, we're not deep enough. See, forget cryptocurrency. This is how we should be wasting energy.
I said you can hear about this.
Man, this is utterly unreadable. Yeah. I'm going through like 4 layers of upscaling and downscaling. That's not gonna make the thing bigger. Xterm is just really small like that. Xterm's annoying. Okay, so we're gonna go Docker pull Debian, will that work? I might have to do a different command. Boy, it sure would be good. Ah, there you go. Let's see, APK, not APK. RC service start Docker.
I don't know if you can.
Does not exist. That's because it's in the wrong order.
I don't see it turned off into
System CTL has done irreparable damage to my muscle. I have no idea. Docker start. There we go.
I asked him.
Docker pull Debian.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not.
Maybe it is gonna work.
Basically,
I feel like we gotta like pull the like stop the full screen here for the full like effect of this. There. This is the full effect here. Do what?
See like the window inside of the ESXi showing Proxmox showing.
I mean, it's got the it does have like this bit on the outside. So we are in like a web terminal. I sure am full of legible words. That's crazy. Thank you everyone for coming if you're heading out now.
Thank you, Ethan.
Huh?
Thank you, Ethan.
Thanks.
Fantastic meeting of the computer club.
Thank you, Josh, for your obligatory positive statement.
I would come again.
Thank you, Yuri, for sharing that with me. Thank you, Josh, as well.
I know.
Okay, I can't read this. I'm assuming that's a progress bar. Oh, that looks like a prompt. I think we're good. Okay. Docker run Debian.
How deep are we in?
Four layers? I don't know. So we've got IA Labs, and I think this is virtual. I think the IA Labs cluster is virtualized to a certain extent. But it's also funnier to count it as virtualized just to make the number go up. So we've got IA Labs, we've got Proxmox, we have Ubuntu, or no, we have Proxmox, and then we have Alpine, then we have Docker. It's really 4 layers. Maybe? Is that a command prompt? I did Docker run Debian, but it's just stuck me back here. This is also the default bash prompt, so let's see. If we cat etc os tech release.
Oh my god.
Does that say that says Alpine Linux? No, it says Alpine.
Why is it like
Unfortunately.
2x2 resolution?
Because it's going through like 5 different layers of upscale and downscale. Because like this is running at a resolution higher than what the thing is displaying, which is running at a resolution that's like lower than the other thing. It's like this is what we're working with here. Like we have IA Labs, Proxmox and IA Labs, then Alpine and Proxmox, and then Docker and Alpine. So at this point, none of this is even real anymore, to be honest. Like
We're in a simulation.
the simulation is a
In a
simulation.
simulation. How many virtual instructions are being called per one normal instruction?
This is an emulator.
Yeah.
No, honestly, it's probably only calling one per because it's like virtualizing. Yeah. Oh well, thank you everyone online for coming. I know there aren't any of you in the Discord right now.
They did what now?
I don't think. Nope, there's no one. Thanks to the 4 people who came to the live stream and whoever watches this